Hi, boys and girls. It's Mr. Kenny again. I'm here today with a very special friend of mine, Claudia Borio, who's going to teach you all about bees.
Hello, everybody. So I'm gonna tell you about Brazilian bees and some curiosities about these insects. Just to present myself, I am a lawyer, but I started studying biology a few years ago, and my specialization is in bees. The whole story of bees starts with this insect you can see here, which is not a bee. Do you have any idea?
Oh,
What
I
it
think
is?
it's a wasp.
Yeah, it's a wasp. Wasps were the ancestors of bees. And so our story starts with the wasps. They they appear on Earth about the same age as the dinosaurs. It's a very different world where wasps were and are carnivores. They eat other insects. And the plants also were very different from today. They didn't have flowers. You can see a fern in the figure. Ferns don't have flowers. And so there is a mystery in biology. Who came before, the flowers or the bees? And we don't know. But about the time that flowers appeared, bees appeared also.
And what do you mean? I mean, what's the relationship between bees and flowers? Are you going to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there is a clear relationship because sometime a wasp discovered that in flowers there was food. I don't know how. Maybe this wasp was looking for another insect to eat, and she came inside a flower and she got nectar, which is kind of sugar with water. And she thought, this is delicious. Maybe instead of hunting for other insects, I will try and get this sugary thing. And the plant, well, plants don't think, but it's almost like they have some kind of intelligence. The plant started producing this nectar and attracting wasps, and then wasps became bees.
Ah,
But I'll tell you a little bit more.
that's very interesting.
This evolution was slow, and the wasps transformed into bees. And they became also social. That means that they live in families we call colonies. So you can see here a flower with a beautiful Brazilian bee. And we have today many kinds of bees. Bees that live alone, bees that can sting, bees that don't have a sting, and bees with different colors. So it's a whole world of bees. Our native bees belong to this family Apidae, but they are a little bit different from the European bees. They are Meliponini, we call them.
Ah, the European bees, are they relatives of the Brazilian bees?
Yeah, like distant cousins,
Oh.
but they share a lot of common characteristics.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, they are all threatened. I wrote in red. This is very important for our studies because bees are suffering a lot today. Let me change the slide. Well, this is a magnolia flower. It's one of the most primitive flowers that exist, and this is kind of a prototype that nature invented to attract bees. Look, this is a beautiful flower, and we have something sugary here for you. And in return, the bees visit the flowers and they make this pollination service. This is a photograph taken from a Brazilian hive of Brazilian bees. And this is how they store pollen. It's a kind of a small pot made of wax, and inside of it there is pollen. It's different from the photographs we see usually about Apis mellifera, which is another species. So this is a shot of a bee. You can see the morphology. It's an insect, so you can count 6 legs. We have 4 wings, the body, the abdomen, and the head with beautiful eyes and two antennae. This is the sting. It's a sting that was taken off from a bee and photographed in a microscope. But our native Meliponini, they don't sting. They have a very small sting. You can sometimes feel it like a little hair, but it doesn't harm you. When I gave this class last year, I invited a volunteer to try it. You remember that?
Yeah.
And there was a very brave boy who said, I can go there and try the sting. But the sting, in fact, didn't hurt him, so that was very nice.
So the bees that we have in our project in the Nature Center, they're all the stingless bees.
Yeah.
And I believe there's over 300 of them in Brazil now.
Yeah, maybe more, Tim. It's a surprise. Every day someone discovers a new kind of bee.
There's so many shapes and sizes. They're really small that they're hidden, and
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons we worry about the burning of the Amazon or the Pantanal, these natural areas, because there's so many insects or so many different species we still haven't discovered,
Yeah.
and we need to take care because before we discover them, they may disappear.
Yeah, that's true. So let's move forward. This is a native bee. It's a picture taken. It's in someone's skin and it's not biting. There's a curiosity about the wings because we usually see 2 wings, but in fact, they have 4 wings, and the wings are kind of articulated together, so they work closely together. It's a very perfect flight.
Is there some reason that they have to have 4 wings? And no, it helps pilot them, like guide them.
Yes.
That's an evolutionary process, maybe?
Yeah, it just evolved that way, but the flight is very perfect. They can fly forwards, backwards, up, down, and to the sides also. They have a perfect control of the side.
Wow,
flight.
Like these drones. They're
Yeah.
probably drones could have been invented, the technology, by looking at the way bees fly. I don't know.
There are some scientists that are trying to reproduce the bees' flights. We have a bee robot here. This is a bee robot that was invented, I think, in Cambridge University. You can see the small wings, but it's very difficult to produce a mechanical bee.
So nature is much better in certain ways than even the natural way and than the technology.
Yeah, because they took millions of years making this prototype. So let's talk a little bit about the legs. And I'm talking about legs, but what you are seeing is a hive. And that's because this hive was built by the bees with their legs. They use their legs to mold things, to scrape or to press, in multiple functions. There is a figure here of the legs. You can see each leg is different. They have 6 legs, but they are all different one from the other. And they have even small combs to comb their hair, to take dirt off, or even to collect pollen. When pollen gets stuck to their heads, they comb with their legs, and they can keep this pollen for the winter.
And they gather pollen on their legs as well. I've seen that with our bees.
Yeah, they have a small basket, and that's where they carry the pollen to the hive.
Wow, it's a super technical, these legs.
Super technical.
Yeah, cool.
And also very useful to climb on flowers and leaves and things. Well, and this is the beeswax. We can use it to make candles, but other things also, like shoe shine or things like that. The bees have special glands that secrete the wax. It comes out of the skin, really. It's like, it's another mystery of nature. And they collect this wax and store it for building their combs and putting their eggs inside and storing their food and everything.
Are there certain kinds of bees that, like the worker bees or the drone bees, that make wax, or can they all make wax?
They usually make wax when they are very young and they are still inside the house, let's call it like this, the hive. So they have a period when they have super rich food, and then they produce wax. And this wax is precious for them because they build everything with it. So they store it.
So it's the younger bees that produce more of the wax.
The younger. So this is a honeycomb. You can see it's built of wax, and the honey is kept inside. This is an example of architecture, because bees, they have wonderful geometric forms to build their nests, and even famous architects study bees, the ways bees build, because you can see it's so beautiful. It's like how do I say that in English? Labirinto.
Yeah, like a maze, or it's a piece of art, and it's all symmetrical. I believe the fifth graders are actually going to be doing some math projects related to the shapes or the geometric dimensions that the bees use. And
you can study a lot and try to discover why they do that. It's open science yet. There is field for study there.
A lot to be learned from the bees. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's beautiful also. And so there are some curiosities about their vision. They are able to see very well. Some bees, they not only have 2 eyes at the sides of the head, but they also have smaller eyes on top of the head. Sometimes 3 smaller eyes that are sensitive to light and movement. So they fly and they can detect where is the sun, where is the moon, everything.
Oh, really?
And with their eyes, they see not only what we see, but they also see other light, comprimentos de onda.
Other frequencies.
Yeah, waves. So they can see the UV light.
The ultraviolet light that we can't perceive that.
Yeah,
ultraviolet.
It's dangerous for us. UV. If we saw it, we wouldn't have skin cancer probably.
Right.
But for the bees, this light allows them to see changes in the colors of the plants.
Wow.
As you can see in the picture of the yellow flowers, which is there. Some flowers, they signal for the bees when they already have been visited. It's like they said, okay, I was pollinated, you don't need to come here again.
Oh, really?
It's a mystery.
Wow, that's cool. Wow.
And other flowers, they change color completely after being visited
by the bees.
They send a huge sign. Don't come again. I've been visited.
But they actually, a little bit that I know about the bees is that the colors are attracting the bees.
Yeah.
The nature has its own design, and all these amazing flowers that we have is adapted to the insects and some of the need for the pollination to reproduce, right?
Yes, some colors are more attractive to bees, some colors are attractive to hummingbirds, and others even to morcegos.
Bats.
To bats, yeah.
Cool.
So after being pollinated, bees also have a very good sense of smell. Sometimes you open a jar of honey in your house, and seconds after there is a bee at the window trying to come inside, because they can feel very well smells, especially the smells that interest them.
And this bee here, is this the jataí?
Yeah, that's the jataí.
This is the bee. It's a cool picture. The hive that we have near the garden, they like to be in the sun. So the garden, we placed that beehive over there, and they're really small. But look how beautiful that picture is.
They have colors, and the eyes are green. But they can feel very well the smells, and they don't have a nose, so they feel smells through their antenna. It's a specialized organ for smell, and also hairs. They have special hairs that are very fine. These hairs are like neurons. They can feel molecules in the air.
Wow! So their sense of their sight is even better than ours, and their sense of smell is even better than ours, and they're just these little tiny insects. That's incredible.
Of more capable of feeling smell than we are.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and also this is a place in the hive where they have their babies. You can see the little babies there. When they sense there is some kind of disease, They can smell it, and they take off and kill the babies if they are ill.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that inside these little cells here, they already can detect if there's a defect and that baby is
Yeah.
not going to develop in. And what happens if what happens if they detect? They take it out. They remove it from the hive.
Yes, some families of bees are able to detect the illnesses and they clean the hive.
Mm.
If they don't, they can get seriously sick and die.
It's almost like the nurses at school taking
Yeah.
our temperature to get into the school and making sure that we're not going to spread the virus, and
Yeah.
they clean out their own hives.
But they are a little bit cruel nurses because if they find a baby is not doing well, they kill it.
They kill it. Well, no, our nurses won't do that.
Yeah. So, and also a curiosity about memory. This is a Melipona scrutillaris, a very beautiful bee from the northeast of Brazil. Bees have very good memory. You can see this map. The red circles show places where bees visit around their hives. And scientists, sometimes they attach small transistors to bees and they
chips,
can,
right?
chips, they can track the roads they take, the places they visit. In Australia, you sent me a film about the people from Xyro. They are trying to do that. They can go several kilometers around the hive and come back, and they have excellent memory.
It's almost like they're built-in GPSs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a mystery for us because they are so small and so simple. Apparently so simple, but they can remember.
Nice.
And this is a bee box like you have at the school of Mandasaya bees. And you can see they are agitated. There's a lot of bees in front and they are showing that something is not right. The problem sometimes is that they lose their memories. It's like a little bit like us when we are poisoned.
So it's like a toxic something, like they get sick from the environment.
Yeah, and agrochemicals, the agrotoxic substances, many substances don't kill bees, but they make them lose memory.
So when they are like producing different kinds of, in farms, different agricultures, they spray to kill some of the insects that are the insects that would be eating the food or destroying the crops.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, they're affecting the bees, which they need for the pollinization in order for their crops to produce food.
Yeah.
So
that's very serious.
It's a big challenge they have in agriculture.
And it's sad too. You can see that the workers are also exposed to the substances, so they probably will get ill when they are older. And the bees, if they visit those plantations, they will be exposed to the substances they will get the substance in their hair or their bodies, and they can die all at once, or maybe they will die slowly, and it's a big problem for us.
So it's a balance of nature, really, right? We have to be careful.
Yeah.
So.
Really. So this picture shows a hive where bees died, and so it's very sad. And another curiosity is about the Brazilian bees. They make their hives in several different places. Many of them like old trees where there's a hollow inside and they can build their little homes in a safe place. But others, they can use holes in the earth,
in the soil.
In the soil, yeah, like old ants' nest that was abandoned, or several different places.
So they basically, obviously they don't have their own little wooden houses like we make for them here at school, but they find the hollows. Do they prefer to be high up, or they prefer to be close to the ground?
Well, that's an interesting question, because some of them build their hives very high and others are close to the ground, and sometimes a hollow tree, a very old tree, can have 2 or 3 different hives inside, and they are just living side by side with no problem.
One of the kids the other day asked the question, can 2 different kinds of bees live in the same hive? Is that possible?
That's a bit controversial.
Yeah.
In exceptional cases, there has been found different species living together, but normally not.
Mhm.
And sometimes they can have terrible wars between bees. Some bees can invade other bees' nests and try to steal their honey and wax and everything,
Mhm.
and even kill them.
So there's just like humans, there are conflicts between the bees.
Yeah.
But in general, one of the things I think is amazing about the bees is how they live together so cooperatively. We have at our school like 6 C's, and I can think of 3 that the bees use. They collaborate, they are creative, in terms of the design, and they communicate very well
Yeah.
together. So there's 3 out of the 6, maybe 4 out of the 6 C's.
Yeah.
The bees are living in more harmonious, like a friendly way. I'm sure there are conflicts in the hives, but everyone seems to work together. If only the humans could work together a little bit more, we'd be a peaceful world.
Yeah, it's a successful society because there are no poor bees. They all get fed, they all get warm, they pass the winter,
Hmm.
they all dress the same, so it's very democratic.
Nice.
So this is their nests, and if we cut forests completely and we have no old trees and no places that are left wild, the native bees don't find places to have their hives, so they start to disappear. And that's another problem that we are seeing in Brazil. Some places we even have planted forests, which are beautiful and useful and all, but they don't have places for bees.
So one of the biggest challenges that the bees have is development. Humans need places to live, and we are constantly cutting down and destroying forests for housing and cities to grow and urban development and farming. And so those are native areas or natural areas that the bees are losing. And
Yeah,
our campus, we're really lucky. We have a lot of green, trees and things around our school. But we're also trying to increase the bee population so that the community around us, the Curitiba, greater Curitiba area, can have more bees, so more plants can be pollinated, more fruits can be grown, or more food for the native animals in the region.
Yeah, it's true. And even by letting some parts of the land grow wild, you can help bees because they can find food and flowers,
So maybe at school, Claudia, something we can do is look for more native plants. And maybe a project the 5th graders could do is to study, or with you, maybe you can help us find out what are the plants that the native bees really like to have, and some plants that would produce fruits for maybe birds, and the whole cycle there, the whole food web, we can increase and support by supporting the bees.
Yeah, that's an interesting project. So if you have all land cultivated, like you said, there's no place for them. It's a serious problem. And also when you have only young trees, they don't find a place to make their houses, their hives. So you see bees coming to the city and installing themselves inside walls or ceilings, places like that, because they are looking for suitable places. And how can we help? Like you said, we could plant more friendly plants. We must have clean water for ourselves and for them too. We could reduce the use of those chemicals, which are very harmful.
The insecticides, yeah.
Yeah, and herbicides and fungicides, all are harmful for them and for us too. And also there's this question of the waves that we use, microwaves and ultrasound waves, they are also harmful.
And yeah, we don't know, but the effects of even the cell phones. I know the frequency that we use on our cell phones are microwaves. It's a frequency, and we don't know what kind of effect that has on them. So even the noise that we make and things like that. So we need to be more sensitive to the bees.
It's an artificial world we are creating. So when we make a little box and we give them a home, it's good, it helps them. There's also some persons making those bees hotels for solitary bees that they can find a little hole there and put their eggs for next year.
Wait, solitary bees. What's a solitary bee?
There are species that they don't live together in a society. Some
Hmm.
of them live in semi-society, so they live side by side, but they don't have a queen and all that organization. They are just loners.
So they're not they're that's a different species. Like the
Yeah,
Mandasai is they couldn't live by themselves. They have
no,
to live in the
Mandasaya
yeah.
is social, but you have those big bees that come to the maracujá
Hmm.
that make this noise like
Oh,
zzz.
those gigantic ones.
Yeah, they are
Solitary.
solitary and they're very
Ah,
important. If they die, you don't eat maracujá.
they're one of the only bees that actually do the
Yeah.
pollination of maracuja. Ah,
Uh-huh.
it's very interesting.
Yeah. So we have to protect these natural areas, which we still have. And that's me with the special clothes for working with the sting up bees. That's it.
So that's great. So that's great, Claudia. Thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have her live because of the virtual learning,
Yeah.
but we will invite her in to come into our class and talk to you guys and let you guys answer questions in person. I have one question before we finish that somebody asked the other day, and it's a curiosity question. Lots of kids always ask, and it's about the queen bee. So. There's only one queen bee in a hive, right? So my question is that if there's only one queen bee, how does a new hive start, or how do the queens develop, or what? Can you tell us a little bit about the queen bee?
Yeah, the hives they are like a family. When they have a lot of food, when they're doing very well, they just feel, oh, we are able to form a new family. So the
Hmm.
workers they prepare a special place for a special egg, and they put it there, and it will develop with special food also, and sometimes it's a bigger alveolo. How do I say
Bigger
that?
cell,
Yeah,
like yeah,
cell. Yeah. And so a new queen is born. But there is a problem.
it's like princess. I think I've
It's a
heard people they
princess,
say it's a
yeah,
princess,
it's a
not the
princess.
can't be the queen until it leaves the hive. Maybe.
It will leave the hive and make a nuptial flight.
What's a nuptial flight?
Yeah, it's very interesting. The males will fly after her, and during this incredible flight, it will be fertilized. And then this queen will be followed by many workers, and they will find a place to live and build a new hive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we can even maybe even experiment with this with you. You mentioned earlier we can actually capture this princess, right? If
Yeah.
there's a trap that you make out of plastic bottles, I think 2-liter bottles, something like that.
Yeah, and sometimes they are just looking for a new home and they will find a friendly, dry place and they will be happy there.
And then we capture them,
Yes.
capture the new princess with some of the bees that are following her, and then we can build with a new box, a new wooden
Yeah.
box, and we can put together a new hive.
That's it.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking the time to come to talk to the fifth graders at the International School of Curitiba about bees, and we hope to see you sometime soon in the forest next to our school to help us with our bees. Thanks again, Claude.
Thank you.
This
It was
was
a pleasure.
yeah, this was great. Thank you. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.